Thursday, February 8th. I'm your host, Sarah Beal. On today's show, we talk to Town Manager Mark Ells, Town Councilor Paula Schnepp, and State Rep Will Crocker. But first, let's get a look at today's top headlines. The Board of Health announces that there will be a public hearing to review and discuss lifeguard exemption requirements. A public hearing will be held on Tuesday, February 27th at 3 p.m. in the Town Hall hearing room. The hearing will be held to provide citizens the opportunity to be heard. The current requirements for a lifeguard exemption can be viewed on the town website at townofbarnstable.us. The Barnstable Youth Commission will again be hosting their Community Prevention Forum and 7th Grade Youth Summit. The Community Prevention Forum will be held on Thursday, March 15th at Cape Cod Community College in the Tilden Arts Center. The public is welcome to attend for a presentation and open discussion with a panel of Barnstable police officers on what the trends are, what you should look for, as well as a Q&A. The 7th Grade Youth Summit will take place the next day, also at Cape Cod Community College, with Dynamic Influence and Kevin Rosario presenting along with BHS Peer Leadership. There will also be presentations by many clubs, sports, and activities available when the 7th graders enter the high school in the fall. A public hearing on changes to various permits and program fees that will take effect July 1st for FY 2019 within the town of Barnstable will be held on February 13th at 10 a.m. in the Town Hall hearing room. Information is available on the town website, townofbarnstable.us, or in the town manager's office between 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Coming up next, Town Manager Mark Ells. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to talk about the CIP process, which is the Capital Improvement Plan, correct?
Yes.
Did I say that right?
Yes.
And it's a big process to kind of, and like you said before we talked, it's kind of a rolling process, and it's, you know, the bigger projects across the town that the town does. Yes, well,
it's capital projects,
Mm-hmm.
and really it falls under the area of the assets that we manage for the community. It's one of the primary responsibilities of certainly the town manager and our supporting staff to come forward to our town council annually with a request, and we do it in two major areas, one in the area of capital and the other in the area of operations.
Mm-hmm.
We have deadlines that we have to meet under the budget schedule and under the charter from the time we submit till the time it comes to hearings before town council. There's certain time frames we have to meet. And so right now we're focused on the capital improvement plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a plan, like you said, it's a 5-year plan looking at all of those assets we have and what we need to do relevant to them. Actually, what we do is much longer than 5 years, because we've got assets that have 20-year master plans.
Right.
And in the case of what we're doing under the comprehensive water management planning, in some cases we're looking out 50 years as to what we might be doing. Now you can imagine beyond 5 it becomes less and less a specific working plan and much more a strategic, a strategic sort of longer term plan. Actually, anything over 1 year could be a strategic plan,
right.
But but we're also saying to our community and to our leadership and within our staff, look, these are the things we either know are coming or we think are coming, and this particular plan is capital. So what does that mean? It means all the buildings, the land, the facilities, the assets of the community,
Mm-hmm.
and every asset has a useful life. So it only lasts so long.
Right.
And we have to make decisions in the way that we manage over the life of the asset. And the really two major points that we have to think about are we running them to the end of the useful life, or are we running to failure? And those can be very different.
Mm-hmm.
And those can be very different depending on how you maintain them.
Right.
If you don't spend the money you need to maintain them properly, you typically shorten the life. And therefore, that has impacts. And that's not a very cost-effective, efficient way to manage assets.
Right.
We began putting in place master plans and making sure that appropriate operation and maintenance money were associated with the assets. Actually I've been doing it all the time I've been here. So that's why, when you see Barnstable saying that it has a good, sound financial basis, it is, looking at its assets in a responsible manner. When outside agencies look at us from a financial perspective, when granting agencies for water and wastewater look at us, they see this immediately, and they say, "Oh wow, okay, they have town of Barnstable is managing effectively and efficiently, and not only are they investing in their infrastructure, but they're maintaining their infrastructure properly." And it helps us toward all those, it helps us in maintaining financial stability, because it would be, and it happens from time to time when regulations change, when weather events occur, but every once in a while we might be surprised that we're at that decision point relevant to an asset, but for the most part, we pretty much know what we need to do, and the bigger challenge is, okay, how are we going to afford to do it? And so that's what capital planning is. And so every year we bring in the capital plan, and they run from anywhere from $10 to $50 million, depending on what we're doing.
Right.
And we probably have about $250 million worth of identified capital plans that we have to implement, capital projects that we need to do. Now, we can't do that even over 5 years. That's probably a decade worth of projects, but that's okay. That's what we're supposed to do. And then some of the longer term, like sewer and water related, some of the reoccurring that we know will never stop, like road maintenance, and now we're looking at dredging. Certainly, those are, there's an operating side, but then there's a capital side as well. So we know that we're going to have to be spending dollars on our roadway system. A road only lasts so long,
Right.
Like I've described, and it goes kind of through that same process. Every asset is the same. So that's what we're doing in the capital plan. Now, every year, we look at what that next year's program is and what the specific projects are, and where we are in the useful life versus operate to fail, and we make decisions because we just don't have an unlimited amount of resources.
Right.
So if we just see that that roof is safe and it's not leaking, it can go another year, we may say, okay, let's move that out one more year, even though it's at 20, 25, 30 year mark.
Right.
Let's move it another year, and that allows us now to look to do something else that perhaps can't move.
Right.
You're also always looking at discretionary and non-discretionary, because there are some areas that you have, like you don't want to run your treatment plant or your water system to failure.
Right.
That's not a good way to go.
That's not a good way to go at all.
It's not a responsible way to go.
Yeah.
It's heavily regulated. There's certainly public health and safety issues, so you don't run that way. You want to anticipate, and now if there's for some reason like a roof at one of those facilities, that's a little bit different, but the systems relevant, you want to make sure that those are maintained in a way that as best and as as reasonably as possible, you're making those capital investments. So we have that going through every asset that our community has, and we have a lot. I mean, we have one of the biggest roadway systems in the state of Massachusetts, and with that comes bridges and drainage and sidewalks and guardrails and signals, as well as the physical asphalt. And so we've got that going on. We've got all of the different resources on the north and the south sides, on our ponds and lakes and bays and open ocean. I mean, most communities don't have to worry about beaches. No. We have two golf courses. We have cemeteries. We have a lot of assets out there, and that's just a municipal airport, though that's kind of dealt with separately because there's federal and state funding that can assist with those capital projects. Right. But again, we have to have a master plan. We have to know what we need to do over a long 20, 30 year period of time, and then each year we come in with those projects that need to be implemented to keep it safe and functional and from a regulatory standpoint are required, et cetera. And there's a whole set of criteria that we utilize when we evaluate all the different projects. Schools, we have schools throughout our community as well, and they're part of this process. And they go through the same sort of planning process with us that we do. And so that's a good thing. There's no surprises coming from the school. We know what they're trying to achieve, and we try to be supportive, and we try to plan within the financial parameters that we have going into capital planning.
I was going to say, it sounds like a lot of planning, a lot of looking ahead, a lot of looking at things on a year-to-year basis. So it's very complicated, but it's very important in order to keep the town of Barnstable running in a smooth way.
Well, it is, because I don't think to our community or our leadership or us, our management here, that it's acceptable not to provide a high quality product from the town of Barnstable. And I say this quite often, but Barnstable and Hyannis are positioned differently than other communities. I mean, when you come to Cape Cod, Barnstable and Hyannis are on your list of places to go.
Right.
When you spend whether you live here and you've chosen to be here, or whether you do business here and you've chosen to be here, or whether you take your one vacation of the year from somewhere else in the world and you choose to come here, there's a high expectation, and we need to be able to, deliver that community, that product to whomever, whether it's our resident, our business, or our visitor. And be very disappointed if you came and it wasn't what you had hoped it would be.
Right. And
so that gets built into the capital program. And we're not accepting of, we just can't do it, and that's good enough. That
doesn't work.
No, it does not. If you want to hold your position of a destination, national destination, it doesn't. So that adds to, again, I say often that Barnstable is a complex community, and certainly capital planning I've gone through very quickly, but that's another aspect of it that is always right there with us, that we need to see our community as it is seen by those who live, do business, and visit it, and we need to make sure we deliver product that addresses that and satisfies that and keeps that quality of life in, quite honestly, in the marketplace. Or else people will opt to do something else.
Yeah, they won't come here anymore.
Yeah, well, we don't want that to occur.
No, we don't want that at all.
We like to see them. Even the traffic.
Even the traffic, we'll take it. That means
it.
that things are good.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you so much for coming in and telling us all about the capital improvement plan.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it.
Okay.
My guest today is Mark Ells. He's our town manager here in the town of Barnstable. Coming up, State Rep Will Crocker, but first, Town Councilor Paula Schnepp. Paula, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the town of Barnstable as one of our new town councilors. You just started in December, so welcome aboard.
Thank you.
So let's start with, why did you want to run for town council?
I've been a resident of the town of Barnstable for 21 years. I served on the Housing Authority for 16 years, and I just felt it was time to really jump in and start doing things in the town that I felt was really important. I think we have a lot of issues that are before us regarding housing, wastewater, our roads, and I thought the best way to get involved is to run for office.
Wonderful. Now, Precinct 12, that's mostly in Marston's Mills, correct?
It's all in Marston's Mills.
All in Marston's Mills.
Yes, the very western edge of the town, and mostly north of 28.
Wonderful. Now, what are some of the issues you'd say are important to people that live in Precinct 12?
Roads. We have a lot of private roads in Marston's Mills, and some of those are deteriorating in quality, and I think we really need to figure out a way to bring those up so that they're as safe as all the other roads that we have in the town. I think that the wastewater issues are important to all the residents as well, and one of the issues that I'm concerned about or I'm interested in is what we're going to be doing with the closed Marston's Mills School.
Yeah, it's been closed for quite a while, and it's been sitting for a while, so it'll be interesting to see what, I know there's been talk about different things going in there and they haven't happened, so.
Right, there's been a couple of requests for proposals to see if there could either be some use for arts or housing, And I think the time is right for us to really put some effort into, repurposing that location.
Wonderful. What are some of your focuses town-wise? I mean, we talked about the important things for Precinct 12, but you also represent the town of Barnstable as a counselor. What are some of the things that you think are important town-wide?
Again, I think housing is a real critical issue. We need to have a mix that's appropriate for our current residents and also for those who, our families are growing and we want to be able to keep some of our young people in town. Our economic health is dependent on having a diverse group of people that are working and living in our community. So housing's a piece, but also making sure that we have the appropriate infrastructure for the development that's good for our community.
You're the liaison to two committees. You're liaison to the Conservation Commission and also the Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about the work of these two committees and what your job is as the liaison.
Okay. As best I can tell, my role as a liaison is to be the communication link between that committee and the town council. And the Comprehensive Financial Advisory Commission does a variety of issues. Right now, the budget is an important focus. And the meetings that they're now conducting have the capital improvement projects that are being considered to be included into this year's town budget. So there are different departments. The school committee came in last meeting to talk about their priority projects. And I believe the next meeting may be the Department of Public Works. They're always bringing many of those to the table. The committee also looks at ways that we might be able to enhance revenue for the town. They just completed a listing of properties that currently are not paying taxes because of their nonprofit status. And so they compiled a list of the value of those properties and the potential revenue that might come from some pilot agreements. Those are payments in lieu of taxes. So again, they look at a variety of issues that are concerning the finances of the town. CONCOM, or Conservation Commission, is the other committee that I sit on as a liaison, and I'll tell you, that's a busy committee.
Yes, they are.
A lot of what they do is it starts from state regulations and in terms of trying to protect our wetlands. And so they're looking at various projects in which, many cases it's homeowners that are, near waterways, near wetlands, and, how can they, add on or modify their existing structures without endangering the wetlands. And so they look at all sorts of ways that projects can go forward, but with mitigation. And very impressed with the quality of that committee in terms of their commitment, their time commitment, and also the issues that they have to review.
Yeah, you got some pretty big committees that you're the liaison for. It's you're always going to be in the know. That's for sure.
Yes,
you're also
helpful.
on the subcommittee of the Zoning and Regulations,
Yes, right.
Which is a subcommittee of the town council.
Right. Yes, and again, I've been to 2 meetings so far, and we've been looking at various regulations that might be modified. One that we're currently looking at and have, I think, brought up to the town council is reworking our family or in-law apartment regulations, to giving it a little bit, making it a little bit more easy to use. And I think everyone on the committee felt that it was a little harsh in terms of how it's currently written. And so I think it'll probably go forward with the town council.
That's interesting. Very interesting. If any of your constituents in Precinct 12 or anybody that lives in the town wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
The best way is through email, and it's on the website, but it's paulabarnstable@gmail.com. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
Wonderful.
And so I look forward to people writing in. I try to be as responsive as possible and get them information if they need it from somewhere else in town.
Wonderful. Paula, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Welcome aboard the town council.
Thank you.
And I hope you enjoy your work that you do here.
Great.
Thanks.
All right.
My guest today is Paula Schnepp. She is the town councilor for Precinct 12. Will, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me, Sarah.
So there's a lot of work that you've done so far in your first year. You're starting your second year of your first term.
Right.
One of the first things that we're going to talk about is the budget process. I know last week you met with Mark Ellis to kind of talk with him about some of his wishes for the town as far as the state goes.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to Mark about what priorities the town has and how me as the state rep for the 2nd Barnstable District can, work it through the legislative process to be able to get some of these things, which are not necessarily budget items as far as the town is concerned, something that we may not be able to fund, but something we may be able to fund on the state level up there. We can work our way through the process.
Mm-hmm. It's great that you have that kind of relationship with the town as a former town councilor and now as a state rep, that you could talk to Mark about these things. I'm sure you would anyways, even if you hadn't been a town councilor. But it's great to see that, so we can hopefully get some more of that state money down here in Barnstable.
Absolutely, in Barnstable, and I also do the same thing over in Yarmouth, with Dan Knappich over there. Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. So I know one of the things that we've talked to you a lot about are home rule petitions. That's kind of been a big thing that you've worked on in your first year. Where are we right now with some of the home rule petitions?
Well, one particularly, which is the home rule petition that asks for kind of an expansion on a home rule petition that we filed when I was on the town council back in 2014. As many people know, the town is able to work and maintain certain private roads that are considered connector roads for the town. They have a large volume of traffic. Usually they connect one part of the town with another, or the town with another town. And what we set up in 2014 was the ability for the town to take over the maintenance of those roads, not to take them, but to take over the maintenance of those roads. And we were successful in getting that piece of legislation, that home rule petition, through the legislative process. So now the town of Barnstable can expend public money for the maintenance of private roads. What that home rule petition was said strictly for the construction and maintenance of those roads. What this new petition, home rule petition, seeks to do is to allow monies to be expended to plan those roads. Specifically, the planning process, what the DPW has to go through, what the town engineer has to go through to bring those roads up to an acceptable level. Because if you strictly interpret what the 2014 Act said, it was only for the physical construction.
Right.
Now this will allow for monies to be expended for planning for that construction. Right now that is in the Senate. It's passed through, it's been engrossed in the House, and here's how the process works. It's been engrossed in the House and it's been sent to the Senate. Right now it's in the Senate Committee on Bills in the third reading. It has to get out of there and then go to the floor to be engrossed in the Senate. Then it comes back to the House to be enacted. Then it goes back to the Senate to be enacted. And then it goes to the governor's desk. So we're working on trying to get that through the process. Wow. Basically, and it's an involved process.
Yes, it is a very involved process, but this is, I think, the third home rule petition that you've worked on?
Yes, it is. We're working on getting these through as fast as we can, but the legislative process is until you cook it, until you're part of the process, you have no idea. You really don't.
Yeah, that's very true. Is there anything else on your radar so far this year? I know we're still pretty early into 2018, and there's a lot of work ahead, but is there anything you're looking into the future to look forward to working on? Yeah,
as a matter of fact, we're still trying to work on something that I'm going to be working throughout 2016 on, other than my re-election attempt, but something that I want to be working on is something that kind of really just hit me really square in the face when I ran for this office in 2016, and I can look forward to in 2018, is the opiate addiction issue. What we are working on is something that will permanently fund prevention programs in the state. Again, it's still very much in the formative process. I'm talking with people across the state to be able to see what we can come up with, but it's something that I want to specifically work on. Is something that will permanently fund prevention programs across the state to teach kids about the dangers of opiates.
Mm-hmm. It's such an important issue. I know I talked to State Rep Tim Whalen, and he's taking on one part of this issue. This is another important part of this issue. It definitely has a lot of different facets to it. So I'm happy to hear that, you know, it's still in the forefront of everybody's mind, because you know, you don't want to lose sight of that. You don't want to forget about that.
Yeah, we in Massachusetts, we experienced this past year kind of a downtick in deaths due to opiates. But not really in the town of Barnstable and not really in the town of Yarmouth. We unfortunately, nearly had record years for opiate deaths in both towns. So, the governor has said things, that statewide the opiate deaths are going down, but unfortunately not in Barnstable and not in Yarmouth. And again, as a state rep, this is something that is really very important to me. I want to see something done on this. We expended a lot of time and a lot of treasure teaching kids about the dangers of tobacco. We need to do that same thing with opiates.
Wonderful. I think it's such an important issue, and I look forward to chatting with you about this in the future.
We will.
Thank you. My guest today is Will Crocker. He's the state rep in the 2nd Barnstable District. Now let's take a look at the community calendar for this week. You can learn how to make sailors' valentines at the Cotuit Library Friday, February 9th at 1 p.m. This is a drop-in craft geared towards adults, but if you bring along a young partner, they are more than welcome. The library will supply the shells and some patterns. You bring your enthusiasm and creativity. This program is free, but please register at cotuitlibrary.org/events, or you can contact the library directly at 508-428-8141. The Barnstable Senior Center is celebrating Black History Month with a series of programs highlighting the achievements and accomplishments of African Americans and recognizing their roles in U.S. history and on Cape Cod. This series is sponsored by the Zion Union Heritage Museum. The series will feature the film Journey into the Light with John Reed, Carl Lopes, Icons of Civil Rights with David, and Robin J. Miller, poet, artist, and author. Events are taking place throughout the month. You can contact the Senior Center at 508-862-4750 for more information. There are no meetings left on this schedule this week. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back tomorrow with an all-new show. On Friday's show, we'll have Assistant Recreation Director John Gleason, Assistant Harbor Master Derek Lawson, and we head out to the Osterville Village Library to learn all about what they have to offer. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Beal.